For this video, we're going to cover some of the basics in the Aspire program for setting up Clipart. So double-click on your Aspire, and we're going to set it up with a new file. So we need to figure out how big it's going to be. So here's what you need to do. Here's a screenshot of some different things that we're going to be working on. These are three sides of a blanket chest. It's the front, we have a left, and we have a right. But each panel, I wanted to put some clip art in. To do that, I need to create a document here, a sheet that is exactly the size of what's going to be printed on. So I'm not doing the entire thing. I'm just going to be doing from here to there to that corner to down there. And it's only going to be that big. It's the same for the big one. I'm going to go from this corner to that corner across and down. I only want to see what I can actually engrave on. I could get away and do the whole thing, but I'd have to measure and figure out exactly where this is and where that is, and it takes a lot of time. This way is much more simple. So we go back to this, and I've already measured it, and I already know that it is 16.5 wide, left to right, and 9 3/4 down. I can change that as needed. Also, your Z0 is on the surface, and it almost always will be. In this case, a lot of times we do the lower left corner, but because it's a panel somewhere in the middle of something, I'm going to put my Z0, my XY0, in the center of the panel. All right, everything else is correct, and just hit OK. Here is a picture of what I did. All right, this is the actual machine we're going to engrave it on. When you're setting up, the 00 by default is down here, which means X goes left and right, Y goes up, and Z goes vertically up and down from this bed. Now what I did is I'm going to put those pieces, these pieces, if I did this panel right here, it's going to go in sideways here around like that. So everything I did is up. This is the up side. The way that I'm looking at it here is correct. This is the up side. It's right. However, if you have a project that looks like this with a very long side that will not fit in my machine this way, I have to turn it sideways. What that means now is I have to take everything, and I can grab the corner here, and I need to rotate it. Now, it's hard to tell where exactly that is 90 degrees. Press and hold Alt, and then it clicks right there. It snaps into place. And there it is. And that's exactly 90 degrees. And now my panel will go this way, and I need to reset it. So if I'm doing that really long panel, it could be maybe 48 inches long and only 9 3/4 wide. And that's fine. I would come down here and hit OK. Now that's correct, and I move it to wherever I want it to be and can manipulate it that way. Same goes with text. If I have text going this way, I click on it, I can turn it sideways, and I can shrink it down to fit wherever I want it to go. But before you start anything, make sure you know which way is it going in the CNC machine so that you can get everything turned correctly before you start. So here's the panel that I have to work with. Now we can import different clip art. You simply go down here to the bottom to Clip Art, and then press Clip Art, and everything pops up. Now I can narrow down. If I know I want an animal, I'll just click on animals, and it'll just show me the animals, and so forth. But if you want everything, just Clip Art and go ahead and figure out what you'd like. In my case, I'm going to just grab one of the animals, and it doesn't really matter which one. Let's just go ahead and grab a horse and drag it in. It makes it a certain size, and then you can kind of decide whether you want it bigger or smaller. I'm just going to keep it fairly small for this demonstration. I could put letters and words and so forth all around if you decide to do that. But in this case, it's as simple as drag it in, size it to the size that you would like, and then go back to your drawing tab. Here's all the tools that you can use. If I wanted to put text in, I would press this button, and I could put text wherever I wanted. If I needed to center this, it should be pretty centered, but I'm going to click on that, and it'll center both ways. Good. Close that out. And there's a lot of different options that you can go through. And this one, I'm just going to stay with the graphics. So this is what I want. It's the size that I need. There's nothing I'm going to change on it. So I'm going to press this blue button at the top to switch to the toolpath menu. Essentially, I'm saying, what do I want to do with this? So I click on it, highlight it, And if it's a 3D graphic, you're always going to press the 3D finishing toolpath. It's this one, looks like half a sphere. Go ahead and click on it. It asks which tool do you want to use, and 99% of the time it's going to be the ball nose 1/8 inch. If that is not already chosen, go to select and you'll go to ball nose 0.125. That's it. And all the information is already correct. Hit OK. Model boundary, that's going to be the outside. That doesn't change. And I like to climb cut. Climb cutting means it'll go circular and it's only going to cut in one direction, around and around and around. And give it a name. We'll just put horse and calculate. Now, as I zoom in, you can see there's a lot of tool paths. So all you have to do is hit play, and it will tell you what it's going to do. If you want to see it in a little more detail, you reset. You can slow it down a little bit, hit play, and you can see that it starts in the middle and just works its way out until the dish is done. You can zoom in, you can manipulate, and kind of see what that's going to look like. And it is very accurate. It even leaves a few little marks that the regular tool bit will leave, that the bit's going to leave. And you can sand some of that out. So to get that back, press right there, and that centers everything. And then go back to my 2D view. Now, once that's done, you're ready to do your G-code. But one thing that I wanted to show you that will happen is if this is enlarged, I've got a big area here. Let's say I wanted that much, much bigger, because it'll fit. Okay, I can go back, center that both ways. There, perfectly centered. Go back to my tool view. And now I'm going to do it again and say 3D finish. And it goes through everything that I need to do from before, and it calculate. Fantastic. And you hit play, and it does it again. If you choose to change what you're going to do, if you resize it in any way, you have to go back in and recalculate. So I actually have two tool paths here. I could have clicked on this and recalculated that, and that works. So essentially, I don't need the small one anymore, and I can get rid of it. You can see there's still some elements of that old one. I'd have to reset it and highlight that and go ahead and click, and then it would do it correctly the way that I wanted. I'll go ahead and speed that up. And that's fine. But remember, if you resize it, you have to go through the process again and hit recalculate. You have to. Otherwise, it will stay with the small image every time. Now, there's one other issue that I wanted to make sure you understood. Let me delete that. What I'm going to do is grab a graphic that is a little bit deeper, if you will. A little bit, it goes in a little bit deeper than the others. Let's see if I can find something that carves in a little bit more. Again, we're going to make it nice and large. Go ahead and pull that out, maximize whatever I can, and center it as we always do, but you can move it to wherever you like. I know it's a little bit off the edge, but that's okay for this demonstration. Close that out, and then we highlight and click that. Now what happened was it gives me an error. It takes me to a material setup page. Now the thickness is right. My material is almost always 3/4 of an inch thick. However, what it's telling me is the model thickness exceeds the material. In other words, it's going to engrave so deep that it's going to go through my material. And it doesn't like that. The reason is because the image is so big, the more that I stretch it out, the deeper it has to go to keep everything in the right consistency, the right depth, so it looks correct. So what I have to do is grab and go down a little. Okay, it still has an error. It's recalculating all the time. A little bit more. There we go. So it's cutting. This represents the whole depth of my project. I'm going to have that much wood left when it's done. Maybe a 1/16, maybe even a little bit less. So there's a little bit of wood. That's not very much. So the smaller it goes, the more I'm going to have left at the end. And that's more like what I'm going to need. It's closer to about 3/16, not quite 1/4 of an inch or so. So the smaller it gets, the thinner it doesn't have to go as deep into my material. So keep that in mind. If you get an error, you're plunging so deep into the material, it's going to go through. So you might want to check your material setup just to make sure you've got enough material left that you can't just poke it in the middle, but with your finger and it's going to fall out. And then I would go through, I'd hit OK, and all tool paths recalculate right. And then it's going to recalculate everything for me. Okay? And it did that automatically. But that screen is right here. If you ever want to check, if you're not getting an error, you still aren't sure how much material is left, just press right here, and here is where it is, and it'll show you. And as you enlarge it and bring it back down, it'll change this. It'll tell you what's left. This much is left. This gap below model, it'll tell you. You can set that and say, this is how much I want, but and a lot of times it'll just give you another error for another thing. This has to stay in the same functions. That everything has to be scaled to itself, so it looks right. And then you can just go ahead and OK that and go through the same tool paths. All right? Now, once you're done, and I'm going to go ahead and delete. I still need to do a tool path for that because I changed graphics. Everything's correct. The ball knows everything. Hit calculate, and there it is. I can reset the preview and hit play, and there it is. Fantastic. You need to save the G-code. First, File, Save As. This is the project save. This is where I'm saving it. So put in your name, Ellefson Horse. That's my project. Now I need to actually save and put the G-code somewhere. So we close that out. Here's where it is. I have that highlighted. Go right here to Save Toolpath. And it says no visible toolpaths because I need to check right there. There's one toolpath. If I have multiple toolpaths, if there's more than one, this number right here needs to be different than the other one. And it'll give you an error if that happens, and I'll explain how to change that out. But I only have one toolpath here. And we save toolpath to file. And you go up, and it says desktop G-code. It's all on my desktop right there. Make sure to call it your name, Ellefson Horse G-code. I always like to put G-code there so you know what the project name is different from the G-code name that you gave it, and hit save. And then go ahead and close this out, and you're pretty much done with that. Now, it's right, the G-code. The G-code is right here. You'll be able to move that to a thumb drive and take it to the laptop, and we can actually engrave it on the G-code. So once you have your G-code from the file put onto the laptop, you're ready to engrave. Hopefully this is helpful. Good luck.